of the bill, that is Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026, lying in state, has surpassed. And the Barakashis, as well as also ZANU PF, Mnangagwa faction to be precisely, have been projecting a narrative that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 is a done deal. Now, remember, in a war, and there is a war in ZANU PF between those who are supporting Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 and those who are opposed to it. The question that I will be dealing with is whether this unconstitutional CAB.3 of 2026, is it a done deal, as ZANU PF would love to project to the people of Zimbabwe, especially the ZANU PF of Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hlonipani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. So, is Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 a done deal or not? In my view, I am still of the firm view that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026 is going to be the decider, and it's a red line, especially for the other faction of ZANU PF, which is the faction led by retired General Chiwenga. At the moment, of course, the processes that have been started by Mnangagwa, they appear to be moving in the right direction. But I must attest to you that it will be a mammoth task, especially for Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, to enjoy peace, especially from now onwards. I think they deliberately took 2 weeks break. It's about 2 weeks because after 90 days, the parliament closed for about 2 weeks to be opened on the 2nd of June. That is next week. That is where we are going to see a lot of activities, especially when the parliament resumes its duties. So is it a done deal? At this moment, it's never over until it's over, in my view. I don't think Mnangagwa can safely say it's a done deal, but this is an impression they would love to actually portray to the people of Zimbabwe. It's not as easy as said, it's not as easy as paraded. That is why over the past few weeks, we have seen Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa trying to go to the retired generals who are against this Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026, trying to actually negotiate with them behind the scenes. We know that Mnangagwa has approached the retired generals who were opposed to Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 in an effort to try and convince them to support him. Why is it important for the retired military generals to support Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa? These, remember, in military, you retire, but that doesn't mean you cannot be recalled back to service. That doesn't mean you don't have influence within the military ranks. The influence remains intact. And if you read the letters that have been submitted to the Parliament of Zimbabwe, especially by the retired general, it also said it was not a letter just from the retired generals, but also from the ex-combatants who are serving within the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. So when we are talking of also the retired military generals, you are talking about individuals who went to war, who fought for the freedom and the liberation of Zimbabwe. You are speaking about war veterans, people who were at the receiving end of the colonial regime brutality, particularly years leading to 1980. So these people have spoken and said, when we went to fight a war, this is not what we are fighting. We're fighting for. We're not fighting just for a single family to call the shots in Zimbabwe. And that on its own has been a strong, I think, in all fullness, the Zimbabwe retired military generals have actually spoken. And I must say also, the military, especially that is aligned to Chiwenga, active and retired personnel have already made it quite clear to Emerson Mnangagwa regarding their position on Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026. And I strongly believe that Mnangagwa postponed because the closure of the parliament, it must never be perceived as a normal closure of the parliament or a normal break. It is not that, in my view, but this is actually a way of buying time, because if the parliament doesn't close its business, definitely the bill was expected to sail through to the parliament, to have actually been in the parliament, or the discussions around that constitutional amendment bill number 3 should have actually started taking place. And also, apart from that, there is a case of war veterans. We should not read much, of course, into that and expect that the Zimbabwe judiciary will actually come to the aid of the war veterans. But it must be underscored and emphasized that the war veterans who took Emerson Mnangagwa to the Constitutional Court are not just ordinary war veterans. There is something interesting. The lawyers, that some of them who are known, except for Professor Lovemo Matuku, there is that also other lawyer, Louis Uriri. He represented the war veterans. That lawyer usually represents ZANU-PF. He has won several cases of ZANU-PF. It's a ZANU-PF lawyer. And this time around, they chose to actually stand with war veterans. Now, war veterans are ZANU-PF members. And also, remember what I keep on referring and going back to the submission that was submitted by the military general as well as the current serving ex-combatants. They said ZANU-PF is their property. They are stockholders in ZANU-PF. In simple terms, they were telling Emerson Mnangagwa that in spite of whatever you are doing, always keep it in mind that this ZANU-PF, it might appear as if at the moment you are in control of it, but this is not yours. It is also ours. We are stockholders in this ZANU-PF. The very same language they told Robert Gabriel Mugabe when Robert Gabriel Mugabe thought he was invincible. War veterans told him, and even the military told him, that remember, in this ZANU-PF, we are not just mere members, but we are stockholders of ZANU-PF, which means we own ZANU-PF. We are part and parcel of ZANU-PF. So, war veterans, they are stockholders in ZANU-PF. They own. And I have said, when you see war veterans standing up, understand that also the military. So that case that was argued at the Constitutional Court should not be perceived as a case between ZANU-PF or war veterans who are part of the opposition. No, war veterans are stockholders in ZANU-PF. It is ZANU-PF fighting against ZANU-PF. And there is a probability that court case may surprise a lot of Zimbabweans, But the hope is slim, the hope of actually people being surprised and the Constitutional Court judges ruling in favor of retired General Chiwenga faction. They are very, very slim in my view, but it must be underscored that at the Constitutional Court, it is ZANU-PF versus ZANU-PF. And it is also the members of the Joint Operation Command who have taken ZANU-PF to court. That is the war veterans. They are part of the Zimbabwe security cluster that in fact determines the day-to-day handling of complex political cases in Zimbabwe, and that involves ZANU-PF in some cases with the opposition. So now it's ZANU-PF against ZANU-PF. It will be quite interesting. I'm also keen to the outcome of the Constitutional Court. So there is a Constitutional Court that is pending. Of course, Mnangagwa has laid his hands on the judges. We know he has captured the judiciary system of Zimbabwe, but this is a very complex one. It was going to be easy if that Constitutional Court case was a mock Constitutional Court, as they would have envisaged between Pechulika Zulu and others who wanted to play. But this one is a serious one. It's ZANU-PF comrades who are not pleased with Emerson Dambutso. And they did not actually hit any far-fetched. They actually hit straight to Mnangagwa. That Constitutional Court case is against Mnangagwa, sitting on the cabinet meeting and chairing the cabinet meeting that seeked to tamper with the constitution of the land. So it will be quite interesting to hear the wisdom of the judges, whom I think it puts the Zimbabwe Constitutional Court judges in a very, very difficult time, or in a tight corner. It's either on this case they will actually align themselves with the Mnangagwa faction or the retired General Chiwenga faction. That is what the Constitutional Court bench at the moment has to actually decide on. It's either they side with Chiwenga, or they side with Mnangagwa, or they choose justice. And if they choose justice, definitely it would be to render the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026 as an illegal an illegitimate actually process, a process that is unconstitutional, and that would be acting in the best interest. Either way, also let me underscore this. If Mnangagwa decides to go ahead against the interest of the war veterans, against the interest of the remember also within the military, Blessed Geza and also Knox Chivero has been talking of the progressive forces. There is a group of military personnel within the Zimbabwe Defense Forces called the progressive forces. The progressive force is against Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, and the progressive force within the military is supported by a section of the retired military generals. Of course, Mnangagwa tried to prove a point that there were some of the military generals who were on his side, but it is also quite clear that there are many who are opposed also to, which means within the retired and possibly the active serving members of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. They are those who are part of the progressive forces. Each and every time the Blessed Geza revolution faced opposition or was facing difficult moment, he would actually say, thank God there is the progressive force, and I still believe that progressive force is still intact, watching each and every move of Emerson Dambut. So it's not a clear cut when it comes to Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026. No one at the moment can claim victory. It's quite too early. And even if they may actually pass it, remember it has to sail through the parliament and Mnangagwa has to assent it. We will be watching. These are quite interesting days in the politics of Zimbabwe. It has taken long for this issue to be concluded, but right there towards the end, that is where it is very, very interesting. They have taken a break for 2 weeks. Let's see what becomes as the 2nd of June draws nearer. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. Thank you for asking. My day was very, very well. I'm busy with quite a lot of things. That is why these days you don't see regular updates. But I think as from next week, everything will resume to normalcy. Thank you very much once again. You can support us financially by pressing the thanks button and send us stars.